Hey everybody, welcome back. Okay, so up to this point we've just been doing some generic JavaScript and we haven't really affected much in the realm of the web page other than we did the document.write and it just generically puts whatever we wanted on the web page. But what if we have specific sections of a web page and we want it to change? So what we can do is we can come in here to the HTML file and let's make a div. And let's give that ID or that div an ID of my div. And then I'm just going to end the div there, and inside the div I'm going to put this is my div. I'm going to save that, and when I refresh it you're going to see this is my div. Now we didn't delete the JavaScript code, so all that's below it as well, but we're going to see this is my div. So now let's come over here to the JavaScript file. If we wipe out all this code and we save it again, you'll see it just says this is my div. Now what's important to remember here from this file is the ID. We're going to do something called getElementById. So just like we do document.write, it wants to go to the document, and remember JavaScript looks at the website as a document. So we're going to go var and we're going to go my div equals document.get. Now there's going to be capitalization here that's important, okay? If you're using Atom, you can see it right here, but I'm going to type it out just so you can see the capitalization, because that's important. Get element with a capital E, by with a capital B, and ID with a capital I. And then inside here we're going to put my div. We're going to hit semicolon. Now, what we want to do is we want to take that and make it say something different. So right now currently it says this is my div. So if I go my div, and the reason I did that is because the variable is called my div, and I do a dot. Now when I do that dot, there's specific things that I can put after it that will now affect whatever that variable is. So what I did was I assigned this, so basically the entire div, to this variable by getting it by its ID. Okay, so now I want to do something called innerHTML. So if I do my div.innerHTML, and again this capitalization is important, equals I changed this text with JavaScript. Now save that, and when you hit refresh you're going to see it says I changed this text with JavaScript. So let me go over this again. So we created this div and we gave it the ID of my div, and then inside that div we put text that says this is my div. So if I comment this line out right here and I go back to the page, you're going to see it says this is my div, just like we made it say here in the HTML file. Now what we did here in the JavaScript file is we created a variable. Now this variable doesn't have to be my div, it can be anything, but because I want to know what I'm using it for here in the HTML file, I did name it that, and I can also and should also comment it and say assign my div to this variable. Okay, so basically then what I did was I used document, which we went over with the document.write. JavaScript looks at the web page as a document, so we did document, and then we said let's get the element by ID. So what we want to do is we want to get something by its ID, which we assign the ID my div. So then next to that we put the parentheses and we put single quotes. Again, you can use double quotes there, it doesn't matter. And we told it which ID we want to get. And the ID we want to get is my div. So now what we did was we created this variable and we assigned this entire div to that variable. And then what we said is, okay, well we have my div now assigned to this variable. So let's take this variable and let's change its HTML. Well, how do we do that? Well, we want to do the HTML that's inside of the div. So we do innerHTML, and again, the capitalization in both getElementById and innerHTML is important, okay? And because we wanted to assign a string to this, we used the quotes here, in this case the double quotes. So if I refresh the page, it'll say I changed this text with JavaScript. But you can also use an integer here. So if I just want to make this 10, when I hit refresh, it just makes it 10. Okay, so that's how you can take something by its ID and manipulate its HTML using JavaScript. This comes in so handy, and you'll probably use it a whole lot once you start programming more in JavaScript, and it's just something you really need to know. All right, so mess around with it, have some fun, and I'll see you in the next video.